Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hey, good morning. This is Dr. Eldred Taylor, and this is Ageless Blueprint Podcast, and I am the Spiritual MD. You know, today is a special podcast because this represents my life work, okay? I started as an OBGYN. I trained at Emory University. You know, I took a picture of my diploma so you'll know that I really am who I say I am. And so I trained there. I did OBGYN just like I was taught. And when my wife started having hormone issues, I quickly understood that what I had learned does not work in the real world. When you're a doctor and you're seeing patients for 15 minutes and you write a prescription and then you don't see them for another year, you don't realize what is going on at home, okay? And the way I used to practice medicine, where I talked to a patient for 6 or 7 minutes, 10 minutes at the most, it was no way I could really understand what was going on with them. But when you're living with somebody 24/7, it's easy to understand the hormone mistakes I was making when I was consulting women before I understood what I understand now. So this is my life work. This is why me and my wife wrote, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? Because this is so important, because it was making her sick. And we did a lot of research. We went back to the GYN textbook, and that's what taught me how to properly implement hormone replacement. And I'm going to show you that today. So I'm going to tell you the 5 hormone mistakes that women over 40 make. And it's also, maybe my next podcast will be the hormone mistakes women under 40 make, because, you know, women under 40 are always diagnosed with PCOS. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But I want to go over these 5 mistakes. One is all women thinking that they need estrogen postmenopausally. That is unequivocally, absolutely false. And I don't care who says it. I'll debate anybody about that fact. Okay. And we learned that with the Women's Health Initiative. Number 2 is not understanding adrenal function and cortisol and how that affects your life. The reason why we wrote the book, The Stress Connection, because we figured out just using bioidentical hormones, estrogen and progesterone, it doesn't correct everything. There is a certain number of patients who have cortisol issues, and it's a lot of patients over 40 or 50 because of the stressors they've been through, that cortisol is affecting their hormones. And if you don't correct both of those, you're never going to get the full impact of that balance. The third one is that women think that weight gain after 40 is just inevitable. You just don't know how many times I've heard patients come in at 50, 52 and said, you know, for 2 or 3 years, they've been trying to lose weight and they can't do it. And I ask them, when did that start? And they always say at menopause. Now, the fourth one is using the wrong test. And that is really my life work, is that you cannot use blood. And I'm going to prove that, no doubt about it. And I'll prove it with the textbook. So this is not something that I've gone off on the rails and tried to prove myself. It's in the textbook. It's in the textbook. Okay. And then the 5th one is thinking that women need testosterone, or or that testosterone for women is how you gain energy. And that's wrong. Testosterone is a male hormone. And the only thing it really does for women is to maintain their muscle mass if that is a problem. So I'm going to explain all of that. But the first one I want to talk about, and I may spend the whole podcast just on debunking this myth, okay, is debunking the myth. Hey, Rebel, am I freezing?
Yes, you are. There you go. Much better.
Okay. So hopefully my internet will kick in. If I have to get rid of this background, I will. Okay. So
If you notice that you're free, if you think you're freezing, move the mouse around.
okay. All right, great. All right, thanks a lot. All right, so let's go to number one. So estrogen. So thinking that postmenopausal women need estrogen. So let me just show you this one slide, okay? And then we're going to talk. All right. So this is a 59-year-old postmenopausal woman, okay? Now, I guarantee you that if she had a blood test, it will say that she has no estrogen. Now, let me tell you why that is the issue. The blood measures the estrogen that is coming from the ovary, okay? Now, in menopause, the ovary stops working. It doesn't ovulate, so you don't make any eggs. That's why you can't get pregnant, all right? Now, the ovary shuts down estrogen production. So if you look in the blood for estrogen, you're going to see little to no estrogen. And I can't tell you how many women come in and say, hey, my doctor says I have no estrogen in my body. Now, that is absolutely impossible. I will tell you that God made it where even when you're postmenopausal, women have extra fat. At least most women have extra fat that produces estrogen. Okay, so your fat tissue produces estrogen, and estrogen produces more fat tissue. So you're in this vicious cycle. So postmenopausally, when you don't ovulate, what you don't make is progesterone. So let's just look at this. Okay, so this is a postmenopausal woman who was told she had no estrogen in her body. Well, her estradiol is 1.1, okay? And normal is 0.5 to 3.2. So she has estrogen, and it's being made in her fat tissue, and some of it's made in her adrenal gland. It's a little gland that's right on top of your kidney that makes cortisol. So she has estrogen. Now, I told you that the key to longevity is balance. And there is a balance between estrogen and progesterone. And that balance should be in a 200 to 1 ratio. Okay. So let's look at her estrogen is 1.1. So her progesterone needs to be 200 times that. So what's 200 times 1.1? Rebel, I'm going to see if you can do that math in your head.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is 1.1 times 200 is 220. I'm going to make it easy for you. But that's how easy it is to understand hormone balance. You just need enough progesterone to be 200 times whatever the estrogen is that your body is making through your fat tissue postmenopausally. Okay. So that is how you get rid of your hot flashes, your weight gain, because progesterone actually helps you to burn fat for energy, while estrogen makes you store fat. So in menopause, if you stop ovulating, the only way you make a decent amount of progesterone is to ovulate. What happens at menopause in 100% of women is that they stop making eggs. So 100% of women stop making progesterone. 100% of women don't stop making estrogen. And if I have to say that every podcast from now to the end of time, that is what I am going to do. Because if I don't say it, I don't know who else is going to spread that information and debunk that myth. And I'm going to tell you why I'm so adamant about it. Because I talk to patients in the office, I show them this information, they understand it. They're doing great. They leave my practice, they go on Instagram, they go on TikTok, and they hear these other doctors who aren't OBGYNs. And even if they are OBGYNs, they don't do what I'm telling you to do. So I don't mean to be too aggressive, but I have spent 30 years trying to get this message out. I used to do it by going on conferences and getting on planes and in hotels, and that is outdated now. This is the new way to spread a message. So I'm going on TikTok, Instagram. I just feel like it's my mission to tell women that 100% of women stop ovulating, so their progesterone goes down. So here's how you do this. So I need to get this progesterone up to at least 220 so that this woman can start to feel normal again, so that she can start to lose weight, she can sleep, she can stop having hot flashes. I will tell you 80 to 85% of my patients are just on progesterone. So let's see what happens when you do this. All right. So I gave her 100 milligrams of oral progesterone, compounded slow release progesterone. Okay. This is when I retest her in 3 months. Now her estradiol has gone down to 0.9, but that's no problem. Maybe she lost some weight because of the progesterone. So her estradiol actually went down because she has less fat tissue, but that's still fine. She's still in the reference range. I have her progesterone up past 220, and her progesterone estrogen ratio is 247. That is the key, is the ratio, the balance, the ratio between those two. So here her progesterone estrogen ratio was 24, which is much less than 200. And now her progesterone estrogen ratio is 247. This lady now can sleep. She doesn't have hot flashes. She doesn't have mood swings. She is back to normal. Okay. So again, if I have to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't care how long it takes, I need to get this information out, because I'm going to show you what happens when you look at blood levels trying to balance hormones. It does not end well. And it may go fine for a while, but when you're being overdosed with hormones, it taxes your liver, and eventually it becomes a problem. You get overdosed and your cells start to be desensitized. So again, this is my life's work. If I have to say this, I'm going to say it at the beginning, and I'm going to say it in the middle, and I'm going to say it at the end. And I'm in an all-out war against misinformation that's on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. Because if you can go into a doctor and you can get them to explain blood tests to you, I want to know. I want to talk to that doctor. I did a residency in OBGYN at Emory University, and you know what we never, ever did? Draw blood to look at hormones. We never did it. We guessed, okay? And we're still guessing. Most people are still guessing. If you were premenopausal, you got birth control pills. If you were postmenopausal, you got estrogen, and you actually got Permin and Provera, which has nothing to do, it's not bioidentical. And we never tested because the blood does not tell you anything. So I don't care what doctors are drawing blood to look at hormones. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you what the textbook says it's useless. And how can I go through a residency at a prestigious university and we were never, ever taught to look at hormones in the blood? And let me tell you why, because again, this is my, I'm harping on this because it's so important. Hormones are made from cholesterol, so they're fat soluble. All right. And so now fat soluble hormones in the blood they will separate out. So it's carried in something called sex hormone binding globulin. And I say they're carried around in a FedEx truck. So the blood is a transportation system. The blood transports hormones from one place to another. But in order for the hormone to work, it has to get out of the truck and go into the cell. And saliva tells you what is in the cell that is attached to the receptor that causes the action. All right. The action takes place in the cell, not in the FedEx truck. The blood is measuring the number of FedEx trucks. It's not measuring how many estrogen molecules got off of the truck into the cell. And then even if you look in the blood, the hormone stays in the cell and it can accumulate in the cell and you don't know it because you're looking in the blood. All right. So, Roz, I keep calling you Roz, Rebel.
Yes, it's okay.
Do you I mean, am I making myself clear? I'm telling you, it's so many people out there with misinformation. I just have to press upon people how important it is to get good information to get good results. It's just like a computer. If you put in bad information, you're going to get bad results. If you put in good information, you're going to get good results. Now,
Exactly. Now we
okay,
have a
mhm.
listener in Australia that wanted to say hi.
Hello, Australia.
And we have other questions. We have a
Okay.
question about why do they treat everybody like a cookie cutter on age? You mentioned if you're under this age, you get this, like birth control, and if you're over this age, you get this. Why doesn't anyone question that there's a two-parter. It's why do they do this? Because everybody can't fit in the same category.
Mhm.
And I lost the question. Oh my
Hey,
goodness.
hey,
Wait.
hey, well, look. This is what we were taught. I told you before, gynecology made simple. The only thing you needed to know was how old is the patient. If she's less than 40, you give them birth control pills, whether it's irregular bleeding, PMS, what they call PCOS, whatever. You give them birth control pills. What
But
that
that's
does
not a
is,
one cure fixes all thing. Why doesn't anybody question it? That's the second part.
hey, now this is what I have to put on the patient. And this is why I say you have to take control of your health. The patients need to question the doctor. That's what needs to happen. Hey, the reason why I learned about this is because a patient questioned me 30 years ago. And she asked me, did I know anything about bioidentical hormones? And I said, no. And so I went and looked for myself to see what was going on. I went back to the textbook, and I'm going to show you that. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I just have to because it's so
Absolutely. We need
important.
to get it
So
we need to get it out there. But we
yeah,
have a
the pay
question Australia's
yeah.
asking. Are you
Mhm.
saying saliva hormone levels are more important than blood levels which are affected by SHBG?
Yes. Okay, so sex hormone binding globulin, like I said, it is the FedEx truck. It carries hormones from the ovaries or from if you're doing it topically into the tissue. Okay. It is when it is bound by sex hormone binding globulin, it is inactive. And 99% of it is inactive. And I'll do another podcast and show you this. So 99% is inactive. It's in the FedEx truck. Only 1% is unbound or free to go into the cell. So just think of this. If the if the amount bound goes from 99% to 98%, and now you go from 1% to 2% that's unbound, now that's doubled the effect of estrogen because it's gone from 1% to 2%, right? But in the blood is negligible. Okay, so let's say now it's gone from 1% to 4%. You're still not going to see that in the blood because it's negligible. It's 96% to 4%, but you have 4 times the amount of estrogen that you need. Okay, now that's so important in the premenopausal woman who comes in with irregular bleeding, fibroids. You go and ask the doctor, okay, I have fibroids. Okay, he's going to say, well, it's because you have too much estrogen. Ask them to draw your blood and to show you that you have too much estrogen. It's going to say your estrogen is normal because it's looking at the 98% that's in the blood. If you come to me and and you do a saliva test at the right point of your cycle on day 19, it will show that you have 4 times the amount of estrogen or that your estrogen progesterone ratio is off. So I don't care how old you are. If you come to me and I think there's a hormone issue, you're going to get a saliva test because premenopausally, the blood test is always going to say that your hormones are normal. And that's why we just had to give you birth control pills because the blood didn't tell us anything. Okay, so yes, 100%, the blood is useless if you're going to identify a hormone problem. And I will debate anybody who wants to come on this podcast and debate me on it. We can go at it because it's not about debating me. It's debating physiology. and physiology has not changed. And I've been talking about this for 30 years. If you go to my school, I give you my book. This is how important this is. I'm giving you my book on Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? Okay. I'm giving it to you in an audio book, a PDF, an ebook. And if there's any other way I can get it to you, I'll get it to you. Okay. Before I die. Okay. And I guess because I'm turning 65, I'm just like, it's my, how women, their biological clock is ticking. Well, my lifespan clock is ticking. And I feel like I have a limited amount of time to make sure I get this information out. So I hope I answered the question. If there's another question, that's fine. So that is number one mistake, thinking that women need estrogen. Okay. Now, let me tell you, are there some women who need estrogen? Yes. Women who are either at or below their ideal body weight that don't have enough fat tissue, those women can need estrogen. Okay. But I never give estrogen unless their saliva test shows that they need estrogen. Because 80% of the time, you can just give enough progesterone to get that ratio right, and you will find that that solves most of their problems. Can I move on?
Yes, just touch base that Dr. Taylor is an MD. He's not what is that, the PhD?
Yeah.
You're an actual doctor.
No, yeah. I'm an MD doctor. Like I said, I did a residency at Emory. Hey, you can go on Google, look me up, put my name up there. You'll see videos of 10 years ago when I was, giving these lectures in front of doctors and patients. So again, this is my life work. Okay, this is my life's work. So now, the second mistake is not understanding the importance of cortisol, our adrenal function. And again, that's why we wrote the second book, The Stress Connection. And you can get that at my school platform. I have that in audio book, ebook, PDF. Okay. The Stress Connection. And stress is connected to everything. And so this is how you look at cortisol. Now, cortisol is in a daily rhythm, and it mobilizes glucose, so you have a daily flow of energy. What should happen is that you should wake up. Now, the green area is normal, so you should wake up and you should have a lot of cortisol. And the cortisol is mobilizing the glucose so that you have energy. So you should wake up, you rub your eyes, you wash your face. Hey, I'm awake. All right. And that should be awake without 5 cups of coffee or standing in line at the Starbucks getting your super espresso, whatever. You should have a natural flow of energy. It should be high in the morning. You get a little lull midday. You eat lunch or whatever in order to get some more nutrients. And then you go through the rest of the day. And I don't know if you can see my cursor or my arrow, but if you follow the green, you'll see at the end of the day, then the cortisol should be low so you can go to sleep at night. And you can wake up the next day refreshed. Now, this is the same woman that I did the hormone test on. So this is the same person. Now, she had the stress of her hormones being out of balance, but she also had the stress of taking care of her mother who had dementia. Now, this is common at this age. I've been through it. My mother had dementia the last 5 years of her life. It is a stressful event. It's stressful. So it's stressful on her. And so she's fatigued. She's, she is a working woman. She's dealing with her hormones. So this is her pattern. You see that it's in that light blue. That means it's borderline low. So in the morning, she has a low amount of energy. She has it all during the day. And you see how at night it's starting to go up. Well, if that line continues at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, she's going to wake up and have a very difficult time going to sleep. And that's what women say. I can't turn my mind off. I wake up and I'm thinking about 10 different things. And what that does is if you're not getting deep sleep, your morning cortisol is just going to keep going down lower and lower. So it becomes, a vicious cycle. You can't sleep. You're more tired in the morning. And people will say, hey, I wake up tired, but then it's hard for me to go to sleep and stay asleep. And we call that being tired and wired. All right. So she's got two issues. So if I just looked at her estrogen and progesterone, I would only be fixing half of the problem. And most postmenopausal women have had enough stressors to suppress their cortisol. So you got to think a lot of postmenopausal women are either divorced, or they're single mothers, or they're dealing with aging parents, or they're trying to deal with sending their kids to college and hoping that they don't get in trouble. So you got all of these stressors. And then menopause comes on top of it. So that makes it even worse. Now, how do you fix that? We use Adrenacare. We have a supplement called Adrenacare Glandular, and you'll hear a commercial about our products. Adrenacare Glandular has something called adaptogens in it. Adaptogens help you better adapt to stress. And a lot of you have heard of ginseng, ashwagandha, cordyceps, rhodiola. All of those are adaptogens. And what those are plants that can survive in very stressful climates, either high on mountaintops, in cold weather, in deserts. So they have a lot of resistance to physical stressors. And they make something called heat shock proteins. And heat shock proteins are what can be transferred to you to help you better adapt to any type of stress. So Adrenacare Glandular has all these adaptogens in it, and then it has desiccated adrenal gland extract in it, and that makes it even more powerful. So you take that twice a day, and she took that for I think 3 months, and this is her retest. So we retested her hormones after 3 months, and then we retested this after 3 months. And you see this cortisol curve has become normal. The black line is the cortisol curve. I want to make sure you see. So you see this black line is in the blue, and this black line is in the green. Now she has energy in the morning. She sleeps at night. And I just want to show you how easy it is to get back in balance. What happens is, if you look at blood, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Hey, take this. I don't think you're absorbing this. You need more. It's simple as a saliva test. And this within 3 months. Now, I'm going to tell you, when we gave her progesterone and we do this, she's sleeping and feeling better in a week or two. It doesn't take 3 months for you to feel better, but it does take a few months for the hormones in your body to equilibrate so that we can redo the test. So within 30 days, we're usually within 14 days, a patient is feeling better. So this is what I've been doing all of my professional career, at least the last 30 years of my professional career. I know this works. I know it works. Okay. We built a supplement company because we knew it worked. All right. So I think it's time for a commercial. I'm going to get off of my soapbox, but I just said I am going to take whatever time I need to get this message across. Okay. So Rebel, let's take a commercial, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to do these last three mistakes. And I probably covered a lot of these, but let's go to a commercial.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the ageless blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Okay, I'm back. This is Dr. Taylor with Ageless Blueprint. I'm back on my soapbox because for mistake number 3 is women over 40 thinking that weight gain is just a part of aging. Now, this is how estrogen works. Remember, I told you that women have extra fat tissue in order to maintain their production of estrogen, even though they're postmenopausal. And now, estrogen, what it does, estrogen makes tissue grow. All right. It makes fat tissue grow. It makes the lining of your endometrium grow. It makes fibroids grow. It makes fibrocystic breasts grow. It makes breast cancers grow. It makes uterine cancers grow. So estrogen equals growth. Progesterone slows down growth and promotes proper development of that estrogen sensitive tissue. All right. So once you have an imbalance in estrogen and progesterone, you're at risk for fibroids, endometrial thickening, or even endometrial cancer or uterine lining cancer, breast cancer, fibrocystic breast, and weight gain. All right, so this lady, now I can't tell you how most of the women who come to me because of weight gain, and they come because of fatigue. Those are the two things. And primarily the fatigue is because they can't sleep because they don't have enough progesterone, because progesterone also is a antidepressant, anti-anxiety hormone. All right. So if you don't have enough estrogen, if you have too much estrogen, not enough progesterone, you're going to gain weight. You're going to have problems with fibroids. You're going to have all of these things. And if you don't have enough progesterone, you're going to have problems sleeping. So now progesterone helps you to burn fat for energy. So if progesterone goes down and estrogen, even if it stays the same at 1.1, you will gain weight. I had 2 patients come in the other day. Both were realtors, and they said, "Doc, I don't know what is going on. I used to could drop weight like this. I would change my diet. I go to the gym and I lose 10 or 15 pounds in a couple of months. Now, for the last 2 years, I've been doing all of that, and all I do is gain weight." I asked them, when did it start? It started at menopause. Okay. So weight gain after 40 is not necessarily due to what you are eating. My number one quote is that you cannot diet and exercise your way past a hormone problem. And I've proven that over and over and over again. All right. So weight gain is not just something you have to live with. Okay. So that is mistake number 3. Now, mistake number 4 is using the wrong blood test. Now, I know I've told you that, but let me just show you where this comes from. Now, this is from the GYN endocrinology textbook. If you look down here, this is the reference, and you can go on Google and you can look at the reference yourself. And this is how we are taught endocrinology. But we are taught that, but we don't implement it. Now, when I was at Emory, we did implement it, and this is why we didn't draw blood. So let's look at this. Serum measurements of steroid hormones. You are unable to easily distinguish between bound and free estrogen and testosterone. That includes progesterone. That's because they are in the FedEx truck, and 99% of it is in the truck. There is a large normal range. If you look at blood tests in premenopausal women, the range is like from 0 to 500. And then there's no correlation with what the progesterone ratio is. So it's just a number. And this is the most important. Serum measurements of steroid hormones provides limited clinically useful information. It's useless. The only limited information it gives you, it tells you that the ovary is either making estrogen or it's not making estrogen. But it doesn't tell you anything about the balance between estrogen and progesterone. So that's what I'm saying. I don't have to debate you. All I got to do is show you the textbook. Okay. Now, most of the people out there on Instagram and TikTok, they haven't gone through a GYN residency. They have not read the textbook. They're reading studies, these recent studies, and you can make a study say whatever you want it to say. Okay. If you wanted to say you need estrogen, I can devise a study to say that you need estrogen. And so There's a quote that says, if you want new ideas, you need to read old books. So this is an old book. If you can see, it was made in 1994. But let me tell you what's older is human physiology. Okay. People have been having babies since the beginning of time. And so this estrogen and progesterone cycle has been around since the beginning of mankind. And it really hasn't changed very much. And just because somebody on TikTok or on Instagram is saying that you can get useful information from blood, they are 100% wrong. 100% wrong. Okay. Uh, Rebel, can you see how passionate I am about this?
I definitely do. People need to understand, just because you placed the order and it got on that FedEx truck doesn't mean that the delivery wasn't put on your doorstep and someone took it right off of there.
Exactly. So this is what blood testing does. It overdoses people. Okay, because the only way you're going to see an elevation in the blood is after the tissue has been saturated. So it's almost like, let's say that the FedEx truck was delivering toasters to you, okay? And you had to use one toaster a day. All right, but they're delivering 2 toasters, okay? Well, that extra toaster, after a while, it will fill up your whole house and you'll have to go on Amazon and ask for a return. And so it goes back into the blood. So this lady came to me because she was gaining weight like crazy. She had started having menstrual cycles again. Well, look at her estrogen. It's 20 and normal is 0.6 to 4.5. And look at this estrogen progesterone ratio is 8.1 and it should be greater than 200. This is what blood testing does to people. It overdoses them. And now all of her tissues are being subjected to excess estrogen. So her breast, her uterus, and her fat tissue, all of that is being affected by this excess estrogen. And she doesn't have nearly enough progesterone. Now, here's the problem. If I tell her to stop her estrogen cold turkey, she's going to have hot flashes again. Because estrogen is a weird hormone, is that the more estrogen you're exposed to, the more receptors your body makes for it. So just think of this. So now she has enough receptors for 20 units of estrogen. Now, if I tell her to stop cold turkey and those receptors don't see estrogen, that causes a fluctuation where they start to have hot flashes. So the patient starts to think, I can't get off this estrogen because now my hot flashes have come back. So you have to taper them off the estrogen while you increase their progesterone. So you have to think of it like this. Her estrogen's here, your progesterone's there. You can't take it away cold turkey. You have to do this. You have to try and bring the progesterone up at the same time you're slowly lowering her estrogen, because progesterone helps the person to get rid of those extra estrogen receptors. Now, I hope I'm not getting too medically technical, but that's what happens. And that's what I have to do when a patient comes to me and says, hey, I've been going to this doctor and he keeps telling me I'm not absorbing the estrogen because he doesn't see it in the blood test, but I keep telling him I feel worse and worse, and I just had to find another doctor. Those are the people who come to me, okay? So I think that's the last slide. Now, here's number 5. Thinking that women need testosterone for energy. Okay, you see this lady, she got that. Now, again, this is what I hear on TikTok and Instagram and all of this. Testosterone is a male hormone. It is a male hormone. Women need a little bit of testosterone, just like men need a little bit of estrogen. But testosterone for men is tied to their cardiovascular health, their libido, their energy. So no doubt about it, testosterone is important in men. But I also tell you, in men, cortisol is important, because I see a lot of men who think they're low in testosterone, but these type A, high level executive type guys who are burning the candle at both ends, they have cortisol issues too. So in men, it's not all about testosterone either. All right. So I don't know how this has come about. Now, I'll tell you why. Because in women, testosterone in the blood is negligible. It's always very low. I don't care who you are. Testosterone is not a major hormone in women. Now, if I give a woman testosterone, this is what will happen. Men think that, oh, now their libido is going to increase. That does happen in some women. But here's what I see more often. Women are on testosterone. They're looking in the blood to see what the levels are. By the time it gets in the blood, the patient is already overdosed. So she may have more libido, but also her hair is thinning. Also, she's getting hair where she doesn't want it. Also, testosterone causes acne in women. And so, so this is the problem. Now, if testosterone gets too high, the woman doesn't increase her libido. She actually becomes more aggressive. I had a woman who came to me, and the reason why she came because her husband was afraid of her because she would get so angry at him. He thought she was actually going to hurt him. Now, this is a person also, she was on testosterone. The doctor kept saying that she wasn't absorbing it, so he gave her more and more. Now, she came to me because she was in the church choir and she was going from soprano to alto, and then they were about to move her into the baritone section. Well, I got her saliva test. Now, this was like 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't have it here. But her testosterone was like 700, and it should be between like what is this? In the low hundreds or whatever. It took almost a year to get her testosterone down, and that's what I'm talking about. When you overdose women or men on hormones, it is very taxing to the liver. The liver is responsible for detoxing all these hormones. And the liver has enough to do just by breathing the air we breathe and drinking the water that we drink and eating the foods that we eat. It has to detoxify all of this. And so we don't need to give it 20 picograms of estrogen to have to deal with. And here's the other thing with estrogen. Estrogen has to be excreted through your stool. And a lot of women are constipated. And if you're not having at least 2 bowel movements a day, you actually have low gut motility. And if that stool stays in the colon too long, you begin to reabsorb the estrogen that your body was trying to get rid of. And it disturbs the bacteria, the balance of bacteria in your gut. And so it can lead to leaky gut. So that's why it's so important to do the proper testing and to understand what estrogen and progesterone and testosterone do. So that's why I'm so adamant about this, okay? Because women and men, you need to understand, you have to be your own advocate for your health. Some doctors hate Google or the internet. I love it because the patient can go on there and they can look at all sorts of information and they can decide what's right for them. And so I love a well-educated patient. I know sometimes you go to the doctor and don't let a doctor intimidate you. I'm like, you need to be asking the questions, okay? You have to ask the doctor. You have to challenge the doctor. And I'm telling you that this information is not too hard for the average person to understand. All you have to do, yes, go ahead.
Does the body naturally make these hormones, and can the body naturally make too many or too little of the hormones, testosterone and estrogen in the body?
Yeah. And so that, we call it estrogen dominance. Yes. Now, I won't say the body can make too much estrogen, but they can make estrogen and progesterone out of balance. And here's the problem. So in order to make progesterone, you have to ovulate. You have to make an egg. But ovulation is very delicate. Your body is very sensitive. And if a patient is under stress, they usually will not ovulate because the body is very wise. It says, hey, you're under enough stress, from your job or from whatever. And it says pregnancy is very stressful to you physically. So if you're under stress physically or emotionally, you may not ovulate. And if you don't ovulate, you're not going to make enough progesterone. So it's not that your body is making too much of something. It's making the normal amount of estrogen, but because you didn't ovulate, you didn't make enough progesterone. Now, I'm talking about women over 40, but that's what perimenopause is about, is that you begin to ovulate irregularly. That's why it's hard for you to get pregnant. So now in perimenopause, you're making a lot of cysts, you're making a lot of eggs that make estrogen, but you're not ovulating. So now you have an excess amount of estrogen, you're not ovulating, you don't have enough progesterone. So now you're gaining weight, you're having irregular bleeding, your mammograms are starting to come up positive. So that's what is going on. And that's why stress is so important, because it can stop ovulation. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. That means you're making a lot of cysts, but you're not ovulating. So you have a lot of estrogen, you don't have enough progesterone. And here's what your body does, because it's so smart. It starts to make testosterone to do something to counteract all that estrogen, since you're not ovulating. So polycystic ovary, what happens? You have irregular periods and you start to make testosterone. That's why women with PCOS begin to have acne, they can lose their hair, and they get the buffalo hump. They get all of this because now they're making testosterone, and also their hair begins to thin. So your body's smart, and you just have to understand it and know what's going on so you can know how to correct it yourself. And I'll tell you, there's also herbs. There's some herb called chaseberries. We have it in a product called Latex. And there's sulforaphane that comes from broccoli. And sulforaphane helps to lower the estrogen, and the chaseberries helps your body to make progesterone. So a lot of times when we see this, you can just fix it by using our product called Latex that has the sulforaphane to lower your estrogen and the chaseberries to raise up your progesterone. So again, I think it's simple, and I'm going to keep talking about it until it becomes simple to you. Rebel, I hope I'm not belaboring the point too much, but I have to counteract the information. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm so adamant about it, because the patients would come back and tell me about this, and I'm like, why are you listening to that? Don't you understand? Or if you don't, let me say it again. And that's why I started Ageless Blueprint. So even, after I'm gone, Ageless Blueprint can live on. And people can go back and watch this podcast and say, oh, wow, I remember that. I remember that doc, who was telling me that before. And let me listen to him one more time. And so I can take charge of my health. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I get up and I prepare for this every week, because again, my longevity clock is ticking, and I feel like I have a limited amount of time to get this message across, and I'm going to do it the best way I know how. So any more questions, Rebel?
Would the chaseberries be for someone over and past menopause?
No, you can take that at any time. Okay, if you're premenopausal, it's going to help you. It just helps to naturally balance that out. So yeah, and it's not something you can take too much of or too little. I mean, you don't want to. Again, you don't want to, take 10 a day. That's ridiculous. You just take it twice a day, and your body can self-regulate. So yeah, I think a lot of times doctors make conditions seem mysterious. We don't know why this happened. We don't, you just take this. We don't know why. Yes, we do. Okay. All you got to do is understand physiology. And I'm going to tell you, the body is very logical. It's very logical. It does things just like I'm telling you. It knows that you're under too much stress to have. And that's why a lot of women who are in infertility workups don't get pregnant, because infertility workups are so stressful. They stop the infertility workup and they get pregnant because their stress level has gone down. And I know we're out of time. And yeah, I know we're out of time. Let me stop.
But all right, so
I'll go to my school, Ageless Blueprint. It's been scrolling across. Please go there. I'm there. I'm active on that site, and this is a way we can communicate even between podcasts. Okay.
Sounds wonderful. All right. So we'll see everybody next week.
All right. See you.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and TaylorMDFormulations.com for more information.